The stars above the outer colonies were quiet, too quiet. 4 months, scouts had reported strange movements on the fringes of human-controlled space, but no one had believed the warnings. On the colonies, life went on as usual. Children laughed in the streets, workers maintained the hydroponic farms, and small ships ferried supplies between planets. There was peace. There was routine. There was the sense that humanity was safe, until the sky itself betrayed them. It began as a shimmer, a sudden flicker in the void that could be mistaken for a meteor. Then the shapes grew dark and massive, blotting out stars. Ships, hundreds of them, sleek and metallic, moved as one. They descended like a swarm of predatory insects. Nobody had ever seen anything like it. The first colony to fall was Lyra 7. Its defense systems barely had time to respond before the alien fleet struck. Energy beams tore through the city domes, sending fire and glass into the air. Panic erupted. Families ran blindly, trying to escape, but the alien ships were everywhere. Communication lines went dead. The colony's messages to Earth became desperate, fragmented cries for help, then silence. On Earth, the news feeds crackled to life. Commander Ewan sat alone in the dim light of the command room, watching the images of destruction replay over and over. Each feed showed the same thing: human settlements being destroyed, civilians fleeing in terror, the unmistakable power of the alien attackers. Ewan's jaw tightened. The commander had faced difficult situations before, but nothing like this. Nothing that felt so hopeless. Beside him, strategist Mara stood with her hands clenched into fists. Her normally calm face was tight with anger. "We've been patient for too long," she said. Her voice was quiet but firm, carrying the weight of years of careful diplomacy and restraint. "We've always believed that civility would protect us. That being fair, honest, and careful would keep us safe. And look where it has gotten us." Ewan nodded, his eyes still fixed on the screens. "Too long," he agreed. He could see the smoke rising from Lyra 7, even from orbit. He could hear the chaos in the feeds, the terror in the voices of people who had nowhere to run. Humanity had been naive. They had believed that their rules and laws, their treaties and agreements, could shield them from a species that did not play by any rules. In the control room, alarms began to ring. Sensors picked up the alien fleet moving toward other colonies, faster than anyone had expected. Every planet along the outer rim was in danger. Ewan and Mara exchanged a look. There was no time to debate. The only thing they could do now was to act, and to act fast. The first reports from other colonies were worse than expected. On Tethra 4, shields had been destroyed within minutes. Civilians were running toward evacuation points, but many did not make it. Hospitals, schools, and factories were leveled in moments. The aliens did not discriminate. Their goal was simple: total destruction. On Earth, ordinary citizens watched the news with disbelief. Streets emptied as people rushed to safety, but panic spread like wildfire. Families clutched each other, praying for a miracle, while governments scrambled to respond. Military leaders convened emergency meetings, but even the most experienced generals struggled to plan against a fleet they barely understood. Ewan rose from his chair and walked to the large observation window. Below, Earth rotated slowly, calm and serene in appearance, a stark contrast to the chaos happening in human space. Mara joined him. "They think we're weak," she said almost to herself. "They think they can destroy us without consequences." Ewan's voice was quiet but hard. "They're going to find out the wrong lesson." Meanwhile, in the colonies, small bands of resistance were forming. Civilians grabbed whatever weapons they could find, while soldiers tried to mount a defense. On some planets, groups of engineers and scientists began improvising shields and defenses, knowing they had little chance but refusing to give up. Human survival instincts kicked in ways that the aliens could not anticipate. People ran, hid, and fought, not out of strategy or orders but because they refused to die quietly. In the control room, Mara pulled up maps showing the fleet's trajectory. Hundreds of ships, thousands of guns, and yet there was something in their movement that suggested vulnerability. "They are organized," she said, "but predictable. They move in patterns, overconfident in their strength." Ewan looked at her, the first spark of a plan forming. Humans had lost colonies, but humans were still alive. That meant something. Meant hope. The alien fleet pressed on, crushing everything in its path. Human historians would later call this moment the Massacre of the Outer Colonies. But for Ewan and Mara, it was also a turning point. They realized that humanity had reached the end of patience. Too many lives had been lost. Too many families had been torn apart. Too much of human effort had been dismissed as weakness. Ewan turned back to the screens. He studied the faces of civilians caught in the attacks. Fear, confusion, anger. And he thought about what humanity could be if it refused to remain silent, if it refused to stay civilized in the face of annihilation. Mara touched his shoulder. "We have to respond," she said. Her eyes burned with determination. Not as humans bound by rules. Not as a species that hopes diplomacy will save us. We fight. And we fight differently. We fight smarter, faster, stronger. Yuan nodded. "It's time the galaxy learned the truth," he said. "Humanity is not weak. Humanity is not predictable. Humanity does not surrender." As the alien ships advanced, small signals from resistance fighters began to reach Earth. Reports of sabotage, improvised weapons, and desperate victories filtered in. Each one was tiny in scale, but together they painted a picture. Humanity was not ready to die quietly. In the observation room, Mara's fingers flew across the console, plotting every possible countermeasure, every tactical advantage. "We can't save all of them," she said. "But we can show them what it means to underestimate humans." Yuan's eyes met hers, and for the first time, a hint of a smile appeared. "Then we do it," he said. "We show them that patience and civility have limits. And we've reached ours." Outside, in the darkness of space, the alien fleet continued its march of destruction. But somewhere deep within the chaos, a spark of resistance was igniting. Civilians and soldiers alike refused to die quietly. They began to improvise, to hide, to fight. And on Earth, leaders who had once believed in diplomacy above all else realized that humanity had been holding back for too long. No one knew how long the massacre would last or how many lives would be lost. But one thing was certain: humanity would never be the same. And somewhere in the control room, Commander Yuan whispered to himself, "They will regret thinking we are weak. They have no idea what comes next." Mara stood beside him, watching the images of burning colonies. Her voice was calm but full of fire. "We are done being civilized," she said. Yuan nodded once, firmly. Humanity would rise, not with restraint, but with everything it had: cleverness, courage, and the will to survive. And the galaxy would finally understand the truth. The massacre had begun the reckoning, but humanity was far from defeated. The aftermath of the massacre left a scar across human colonies. Earth had watched helplessly as entire settlements were destroyed, and yet, in the quiet that followed, something remarkable began to stir. Humanity refused to bow. They refused to surrender. In the underground labs beneath the surface of the capital city, lights glowed dimly against the concrete walls. The air smelled of metal and machines, a mix of electricity and oil that reminded everyone inside that they were alive, and they were fighting back. Engineer Tobin crouched over a plasma cannon, his hands moving with careful precision as he adjusted the energy regulators. Every bolt tightened, every wire connected, made the weapon stronger, faster, and smarter. Tobin had always been methodical, always precise, and now those traits mattered more than ever. Beside him, biologist Elsie carefully manipulated nanobots under a microscope. Tiny machines, almost invisible to the naked eye, scuttled across a digital surface she controlled with a touch of her fingers. These nanobots were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. They could adapt to damage, repair themselves, and even change their function based on threats in real time. Elsie smiled faintly. Humanity was building a kind of technology that was alive, and the aliens would never expect it. Elsewhere, in orbiting stations above Earth, fleets of humans trained tirelessly. Pilots practiced maneuvers that ignored conventional tactics, using the emptiness of space to their advantage. Engineers ran simulations that calculated impossible angles, movements that seemed chaotic but were designed to confuse and overwhelm any enemy. Each exercise, each drill, was a reminder that humanity was no longer the predictable species the galaxy had once known. In the control room on Earth, Commander Yuan and strategist Mara watched the progress closely. Mara's fingers danced across the console as she coordinated efforts across labs, stations, and colonies still in operation. "They think we are weak," she said quietly, almost to herself. "They have no idea what we are becoming." Yuan nodded. He remembered the massacre vividly, the screams, the fire, the helplessness of watching colonies fall. But now, in this room, he felt something else. A surge of determination. Humanity was no longer holding back. Humanity was awakening. The first public message went out just as the sun rose over Earth's horizon. It was simple, clear, and firm. "We are done being civilized." The message was broadcast across every channel, every signal, and every communication line. At first, many aliens laughed. Humans? Done being civilized? They were always weak, one alien leader said, sipping from a cup of liquid that shimmered like mercury. But then came the whispers. Small at first. Reports from the outer colonies about weapons that could adapt, nanotech that could heal damaged ships in minutes, pilots performing maneuvers that no one thought possible. The galaxy began to notice. Humans were no longer predictable. They could not be anticipated. And fear, subtle but growing, began to spread. On one of the orbital stations, Tobin and Elsie worked side by side. Tobin adjusted the cannon's energy output while Elsie tested a new type of nanobot armor for soldiers. "Do you think they'll really be afraid?" Tobin asked quietly. He had always been practical, skeptical of words. Elsie looked at him, her eyes shining with quiet confidence. "They will learn. And when they do, they'll wish they had never attacked us." Back on Earth, ordinary citizens watched the broadcasts in awe. People who had felt powerless during the massacre now felt a spark of hope. Small groups began volunteering to assist in the efforts. Programmers, engineers, and even children learning robotics and coding. Every person felt part of the awakening. Humanity was uniting not just through survival, but through creativity, courage, and innovation. Meanwhile, the alien fleets were still in motion, confident in their past victories. They did not yet understand the changes occurring on Earth and in the remaining colonies. Their intelligence networks failed to detect the tiny sparks of resistance. The laboratories where humans worked night and day, the orbital stations practicing new tactics. They assumed humans were broken, defeated, and predictable. They were wrong. On a distant moon, pilot Finn adjusted his flight controls, ready for a simulation. Beside him, co-pilot Lara monitored the sensors. "They'll never see us coming like this," Lara said. Her voice held excitement, almost joy. Finn grinned. "That's the plan. No one expects humans to fight this way." In the labs below, Elsie's nanobots were performing tasks she hadn't even programmed. They repaired themselves, adapted to new obstacles, and even started experimenting in ways that mimicked human problem-solving. Tobin watched, impressed. "It's like they're learning," he said. "They are learning," Elsie replied. "And soon they will be teaching the galaxy that humans are not to be underestimated." The weeks passed quickly. Human engineers developed new shields that could regenerate mid-battle. Pilots perfected formations that could strike multiple points at once. Scientists discovered ways to enhance reflexes, both human and machine, to levels that seemed impossible. Humanity was no longer just reacting, they were inventing, predicting, and evolving faster than anyone else in the galaxy. In the command room, Ewan and Mara coordinated every effort, ensuring that Earth's awakening was not wasted. Mara marked positions on the galactic map, noting every colony that still required protection. Ewan's mind raced with strategy. He thought not only about survival but about the lesson humanity would teach the galaxy. You do not attack humans and expect them to remain weak. At night, when the labs were quiet, Tobin and Elsie would look out at the stars. The darkness was peaceful but also full of possibility. "They think they can destroy us," Tobin said. "But we're awake now. They will regret it." Elsie nodded. "The galaxy doesn't understand us yet. But it will. One day everyone will know that humans are dangerous when pushed too far. Not because we are cruel but because we survive. Because we adapt. Because we never give up." The first small skirmishes began as humans tested their new weapons against alien patrols. Ships moved unpredictably, avoiding traps, using the environment in ways the aliens had never imagined. When a patrol ship tried to attack a human mining station, it was destroyed with surgical precision. The aliens were confused. Their predictions had failed. Their rules of engagement were useless. Word of these victories spread quickly. Mara compiled every report, showing Ewan the growing pattern. Humans were not only surviving, they were learning, adapting, and striking back. Each success fueled confidence, not arrogance, but determination. Humanity had been humbled, but never broken. Back on Earth, ordinary people watched the reports with a mix of fear and pride. Children drew pictures of human ships flying through the stars, robots repairing buildings, and soldiers fighting bravely against overwhelming odds. The massacre had destroyed so much, but it had also sparked a fire that could never be extinguished. One evening Mara and Ewan met with the council. Mara spread her hands over the table. "We are no longer the same species they attacked," she said. "We are awake. We have learned. And now we will not be predictable. We will not wait for them to strike first." Ewan nodded. "The galaxy will see what we can do," he said. "They will remember the day humanity decided it would no longer be civilized in the old sense. They will learn that humans survive, adapt, and fight back when pushed too far." The alien fleets continued to move in space, unaware of the storm that was forming. They saw humans as weak, slow, and compliant. But humans had changed. The calm, methodical species they had once underestimated had awakened. They were clever, creative, and relentless. Tobin worked late into the night, adjusting plasma cannons and testing shields. Elsie watched, analyzing data from her nanobots. Outside, the stars shone cold and distant, but humanity felt closer than ever to the power of survival and triumph. And across all the channels the message continued to spread: we are done being civilized. It was no longer a warning, it was a promise. The galaxy would soon understand that humans were no longer the species to underestimate. The awakening had begun. Humanity would no longer bow, no longer wait for mercy. They would rise, not with reckless violence but with brilliance, courage, and unity. And the aliens who thought humans were predictable would soon learn the truth in ways they could not imagine. The massacre had sparked the fire. Humanity was awake and the galaxy would never forget it. The alien fleets had grown confident. Months had passed since the massacre, and in their arrogance, they believed humanity was still weak, still predictable, and still afraid. They had underestimated humans once. Now they would see that humans did not stay defeated for long. Fleet Admiral Rowan stood on the bridge of the flagship Resolute. The ship hummed with energy, every system online and tested. Sensors blinked with information, showing a space that seemed empty but was anything but. Rowan's eyes scanned the screens carefully. "This is it," he said quietly, more to himself than to anyone else. "Time to show them what humans can do." Beside him, Lieutenant Kira adjusted the display panels. "Admiral, enemy patrols are ahead. Their sensors will detect any unusual activity." She paused. "Unless we move where they don't expect." Rowan nodded, a small smile on his face. "That's exactly the point, Lieutenant. They don't expect humans to break the rules. That's our advantage." In the squadron the pilots went over final checks. Finn, Lara, and other pilots who had trained relentlessly since the awakening prepared for their first real strike. They had practiced countless maneuvers, studied alien formations, and tested every weapon in human arsenals. Each pilot knew the stakes. The lives of colonies, the honor of Earth, and the survival of humanity rested on their shoulders. When the order was given, the human ships disappeared. Sensors in the alien fleet should have detected them. They did not. Ships appeared suddenly in places where none should be, as if they had vanished into thin air. It was disorienting. The alien commanders, used to structured movements and predictable tactics, struggled to understand what they were seeing. The first strike was surgical. A patrol fleet moved toward an outer colony, unaware that humans had already positioned themselves in its path. Plasma beams tore through shields that the aliens thought were impenetrable. Human ships moved with precision, striking multiple targets at once. Every action was coordinated, but nothing about it seemed conventional. On Earth, Mara watched the reports with growing satisfaction. She leaned forward, her eyes narrowing as she saw the alien ships falter. "They think humans fight like everyone else," she said softly. "They don't know we don't play by the same rules." Back in space, Rowan issued commands calmly but with authority. "Finn, Lara, move to flank position Delta 7. Synchronize with the outer squadron. Everyone else, maintain formation Beta. Prepare for rapid disengagement on my signal." The alien fleet struggled to respond. Their attacks were ineffective because humans did not follow patterns. One moment they were in one position, the next they had vanished and struck from behind. The aliens could not predict their movements, could not anticipate their tactics. Every maneuver humans had practiced was designed to exploit this advantage. Finn gritted his teeth as he guided his ship through the chaotic battle. "They don't even know we're here," he said, a mixture of excitement and focus in his voice. "It's perfect." Lara's fingers flew across her console, analyzing enemy patterns. "They're panicking," she said. "They expected us to be predictable. We're not. And they can't adapt fast enough." The human strike hit the alien fleet in multiple locations. Supply ships were destroyed, communications disrupted, and patrols scattered. Every victory was small in isolation but significant in impact. Humanity's first retaliation was not meant to wipe out the aliens completely, it was meant to send a message. The message was clear: humans were dangerous, unpredictable, and no longer restrained by outdated ideas of civility. In the control room on Earth, Mara and Ewan watched live feeds from the squadron. Mara's eyes shone with pride. "They will never forget this," she said. "The galaxy will see what humans can do when pushed." Ewan remained silent for a moment, watching the patterns unfold on the screens. "They underestimated us once," he said finally. Now they will know that humans are a force to be reckoned with. Not just in numbers but in cunning, creativity, and sheer determination. Back in space, human ships executed maneuvers that alien commanders could not anticipate. Rowan ordered a series of feints and sudden retreats, drawing the enemy into positions that seemed advantageous but were traps. Alien vessels moved into the zones of human control, only to find themselves surrounded, attacked from multiple directions simultaneously. The alien commanders were confused and frustrated. Their systems predicted human behavior incorrectly, their sensors failed to detect sudden changes, and their strategy broke down under the pressure of unpredictability. Rowan's squadron struck quickly, then vanished, leaving the enemy fleet scrambling to regroup. Finn's ship darted through space, avoiding incoming fire while simultaneously delivering precise strikes. "We're rewriting the rules," he said. "They can't handle it." Lara glanced at the damage reports. "Every strike is calculated. Every move is intentional. This isn't chaos. It's strategy they can't see." On Earth, Mara and Ewan briefed the Council on the progress. "The first retaliation is more than a military action," Mara explained. "It is a statement. Humanity will no longer be dismissed, underestimated, or attacked without consequence. This is the beginning of a new era." The strikes continued for hours, then days. Every human action was designed to destabilize and confuse. Supply lines were disrupted, communications jammed, and patrols destroyed. The aliens began to retreat, unsure of how to respond. They had never faced an enemy that ignored convention so completely, an enemy that was simultaneously disciplined and unpredictable. Rowan's ships moved through the enemy fleet like shadows, striking quickly and disappearing before retaliation could be mounted. Finn and Lara, along with the rest of the pilots, felt a growing sense of pride and purpose. They were humanity's first strike, the face of a species that refused to be weak. In the control room on Earth, Mara recorded every movement, every victory, every small success. "This is the start," she said. "They will remember this day not because of our numbers but because of how we fought. They will learn that humans are clever, adaptable, and relentless." Ewan leaned back in his chair, watching live feeds of human ships striking again and again. "It's more than retaliation," he said. "It's a lesson. The galaxy will learn that humans are not to be underestimated. They cannot predict us. They cannot control us." Even the civilian population of Earth felt the impact. Broadcasts of human victories spread quickly. People who had felt helpless during the massacre now felt hope. Children, students, and volunteers contributed to the war effort, building, coding, repairing, and learning. Humanity's first retaliation was a reminder that survival was not only about strength, but about intelligence, adaptability, and courage. Rowan guided the flagship through the last engagement of the first retaliation. Alien ships retreated, their formations broken, their confidence shaken. "Hold your positions," Rowan commanded. "We are not finished, but this sends the message." Finn's voice crackled over the comms. "Message received, Admiral. They won't see us coming next time either." Mara watched the live reports one last time before leaving the control room. She turned to Ewan. "Humanity has reminded the galaxy of something important," she said. "We are dangerous, not because we seek war but because we survive. We adapt. We fight when cornered. And we do it on our own terms." Ewan nodded, a rare smile forming. "This is just the beginning. Humanity has awakened. The massacre awakened us, and now the retaliation shows the galaxy who we are." Rowan's squadron returned to orbit above Earth, their ships battered but victorious. Pilots cheered quietly, knowing they had done something no one expected. Humanity had struck back, not recklessly but intelligently, bravely, and unpredictably. The aliens had learned a painful lesson. Humans were not weak. Humans were not predictable. Humans had awakened. And the galaxy would soon understand that humans could no longer be dismissed, underestimated, or controlled. In the control room, Mara's fingers hovered over the console, ready for the next strike. "This is only the beginning," she whispered. "The galaxy has no idea what comes next." Rowan watched the stars outside his ship. "Let them remember this day," he said quietly. "Let them remember humanity. We fight differently. We fight smarter. We fight because we will survive. And survival makes humans dangerous." The first retaliation was over, but the war, and humanity's rise, had only just begun. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. Humanity's first retaliation had shaken the galaxy, but it was only the beginning. Word of human victories spread across star systems, carried by scouts, travelers, and intercepted transmissions. What had once been whispers of fear became full conversations of caution. Species that had mocked humans, believing them weak, now paused before sending fleets into human space. Scout Clive floated in the observation pod of his small ship, scanning the remnants of an alien formation he had tracked for weeks. His fingers moved quickly across the console as he transmitted images back to Earth. The fleet was in disarray. Ships that had once been perfectly aligned were now scattered, some drifting, some damaged, and some destroyed completely. Clive's voice was calm, but his heart raced with pride. "This is bigger than we imagined," he said into the comm. "They're falling apart. The galaxy has underestimated us for too long." On Earth, the images appeared on screens in the command room. Scientist Ivy leaned over them, her eyes wide with excitement. She had spent years developing AI systems capable of anticipating enemy movements and learning in real time. Now she watched the AI track alien maneuvers with ease, predicting their next moves and suggesting counterattacks that humans alone might never have conceived. Ivy clapped her hands once, laughing softly. "We've done it," she said. "The AI is finally performing like we imagined. We can anticipate them, outmaneuver them, and outsmart them at every turn." Commander Ewan and strategist Mara stood nearby, watching the reports. Mara's face was calm, but her eyes shone with determination. "Humanity is no longer just reacting," she said. "We're shaping the battlefield, guiding every move, and forcing the galaxy to recognize our power. They can't ignore us anymore." The tide of war had begun to turn. Small victories multiplied into larger ones. Human ships, guided by AI predictions and brilliant pilots, struck alien supply lines, communication networks, and patrol fleets. Colonies that had once mocked humanity, calling Earth's fleets naive and weak, now approached with requests for alliances. Even those who had considered humans insignificant began to reconsider their assumptions. Scout Clive transmitted another set of images. He highlighted a series of enemy patrols that had attempted to regroup. The AI calculated their likely escape routes, and Clive relayed these to fleet commanders. Within hours, the alien ships were surrounded, and their escape plans disrupted. Human strikes were swift, precise, and devastating, yet executed with restraint. No human ship acted without purpose. Every action had intent, every strike sent a message. Humans were no longer passive, and they could not be underestimated. In the laboratories beneath the surface of Earth, Ivy and her team celebrated breakthroughs that had been years in the making. Nanotech and AI combined in ways that enhanced human soldiers' reflexes, repaired damaged ships in orbit, and even managed logistics across multiple colonies simultaneously. Civilians volunteered to help, building parts, repairing systems, and running communications. Every human contributed to the awakening, and every contribution made the species stronger, smarter, and more formidable. Scout Clive watched the alien fleet from a distance. He had seen them confident, arrogant, and mocking. Now they were cautious, hesitant, and afraid. Even small patrols that had once pursued humans relentlessly now maintained distance. Clive smiled. "They didn't expect this," he said. "They thought we would stay weak, predictable, and afraid. They were wrong." On Earth, Mara convened a council with leaders from surviving colonies. "We must continue to strike," she said firmly. "But we must also inspire others. Humanity cannot only survive, we must shape the galaxy's understanding of who we are. Creativity, adaptability, and courage are our strengths. Let every victory remind the galaxy that humans cannot be dismissed." Ewan nodded. "This is the turning tide," he said. "The Massacre tried to break us, but it only forged something stronger. The galaxy must see that humans adapt, humans innovate, and humans survive when pushed to the edge. That is the lesson we will teach them." Meanwhile, pilots trained day and night. Finn and Lara led squads through simulated battles, practicing new strategies and maneuvers. Every drill, every exercise, prepared them for engagements that would test human creativity against alien predictability. The pilots became artists of war, combining intelligence, instinct, and improvisation in ways no alien force could anticipate. Scout Clive received a transmission from a distant colony. "We've been attacked before," the message read. "But your actions saved lives. We can't fight alone, but with humans guiding us, we have hope." Clive relayed the message to Earth. Mara smiled. "The galaxy is starting to listen," she said softly. "They are beginning to see humanity as more than a weak species. They are beginning to see our strength." Ivy worked on integrating AI with real-time battlefield data. The systems now suggested unconventional strategies, using terrain, space anomalies, and even psychological tactics to destabilize alien fleets. "This is more than technology," Ivy explained. It's human creativity amplified by intelligence. They can't plan for what we will do next because we combine thought, intuition, and invention. No species has ever fought like this before. The first coordinated multi-colony strike was planned. Pilots, engineers, and soldiers across 3 planets synchronized their movements, guided by Ivy's AI and Clive's reconnaissance. The target was a heavily fortified alien supply hub. The humans attacked not with brute force alone, but with clever diversions, stealth approaches, and unpredictable maneuvers. Alien commanders were overwhelmed, unable to adapt to the chaos that humans created intentionally. When the dust settled, the supply hub was neutralized. Human casualties were minimal, alien losses were severe, and the message was clear: humans could no longer be ignored. Colonies that had once ridiculed humanity's diplomatic approach now sought direct assistance, offering ships, soldiers, and resources. Humanity was no longer alone, its allies grew stronger, and so did its influence. On Earth, Mara addressed the Council. Victory is not just in battle, she said. Victory is in perception. Let the galaxy see what humans can do when united, when intelligent, when creative. We are no longer passive. We are shaping the tide. Ewan added, this is not just survival. This is a demonstration. The massacre was a lesson for us, and now we teach the galaxy. Underestimate humanity at your own risk. Scout Clive continued to monitor the alien fleet. He watched them struggle to rebuild formations, trying to respond to human unpredictability. They're trying to recover, he said to himself. But they don't understand us. They never will. Ivy analyzed new patterns. Every engagement we fight teaches us something new, she explained to her team. The aliens can adapt slowly, but we evolve faster. Creativity, adaptability, and collaboration are our weapons. That is why we are turning the tide. The galaxy began to take notice. Allied species, those who had once ignored Earth, sent envoys. They observed human tactics, AI strategies, and nanotech integration. They realized humans had become more than survivors. They had become innovators, a species that could adapt faster than any other. Even civilians contributed to the tide. Engineers built emergency repairs for damaged ships. Scientists worked on predictive algorithms for logistics and strategy. Volunteers coordinated communications across colonies, ensuring that every strike, every scout report, and every piece of intelligence reached decision-makers immediately. Humanity's awakening was total, from the lab to the battlefield, from orbiting stations to underground bunkers. Scout Clive watched as alien fleets attempted a counterattack. Their ships moved in coordinated formations, expecting predictable resistance. They were met with ambushes, deceptive maneuvers, and sudden strikes from unexpected directions. The AI-guided humans anticipated every move, exploiting weaknesses the aliens did not even realize existed. Finn's squadron delivered a decisive blow to an enemy supply convoy, while Lara's team sabotaged communications, preventing the aliens from coordinating any retreat. Human tactics were not only effective, they were brilliant in their unpredictability. On Earth, Mara and Ewan watched the reports. Mara's fingers traced the movements on the holographic map. The tide is turning, she said, voice filled with quiet satisfaction. The galaxy can no longer ignore humanity. We are not just survivors. We are a force of intelligence, creativity, and resilience. Ewan nodded. This is only the beginning, he said. We will continue to rise, and every action we take will remind the galaxy why humans cannot be underestimated. They mocked us once. Now they will respect us or fear us. The victories continued to multiply. Colonies that once refused aid now sent ships and soldiers to assist human operations. Pilots and engineers trained in unison across star systems, creating a coordinated force that could strike anywhere at any time. Humanity's adaptability and creativity became legendary, spreading faster than any alien fleet could suppress. Scout Clive transmitted his final report of the day. The alien fleets were fragmented, their morale low, and their confidence shattered. The AI predicted continued human successes, and every new report from Earth reinforced the growing legend. Humanity's first retaliation had evolved into a full-scale turning tide. Ivy's voice rang out across the lab. We are no longer reacting. We are controlling the flow of war, of life, of survival. This is human ingenuity at its finest. Mara turned to Ewan. The galaxy is beginning to understand the truth, she said. Humans are adaptable, creative, and unstoppable when united. They will not forget this. Ewan watched the stars outside the window, feeling pride and determination. The massacre forged us, he said. The retaliation awakened us. And now the tide turns in our favor. Humanity has awakened and the galaxy will never forget it. The turning tide had begun. Humanity was no longer the species to be dismissed. They were a force of creativity, intelligence, and courage, and the galaxy would have no choice but to recognize it. Humanity had awakened, adapted, and turned the tide. Alien fleets had been disrupted, colonies once mocking Earth now sent envoys seeking alliances, and every human victory became a symbol of power and ingenuity. But now it was time for humanity to speak directly. It was time to confront the galaxy not just in battle but with a clear and firm message. On the bridge of the flagship Resolute, Soldier Jude stood at attention, his eyes scanning the stars. The comms were alive with messages, alerts, and signals, but Jude's attention was focused on the alien fleet visible through the large observation windows. Ships that had once bristled with confidence now moved hesitantly, some retreating in disarray, others frozen as if unsure where to go. The humans had broken their organization, shattered their morale, and disrupted their confidence. Admiral Rowan's voice came over the speakers, calm and commanding. "Prepare the ultimatum," he said. "Transmit to every fleet, every colony, every command center. Humanity speaks clearly: surrender or face total isolation. This is the moment to define who we are to the galaxy." Lieutenant Kira adjusted the communication arrays. "All frequencies ready, Admiral. The message will reach every corner of human space, and beyond." She glanced at Jude. "Are you ready to witness history?" Jude nodded silently. He had grown up hearing stories of human perseverance, of battles won against impossible odds, but this was something else entirely. Humanity was no longer just surviving. Humanity was asserting itself. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath as the transmission began. The message was simple, firm, and unmistakable. Humanity demands surrender or isolation. Any attack will be met with unified, relentless retaliation. Do not underestimate us again. Across the galaxy, alien leaders intercepted the transmission. Some laughed at first, assuming it was empty bravado. Humans? Threatening the galaxy? They've already been defeated before, one commander said, swirling a liquid that glimmered like fire. But even as they mocked, subtle panic began to ripple through their ranks. Reports from scouts and patrols showed the true human capability. Entire fleets had been disrupted, supply lines destroyed, and colonies liberated with minimal losses on Earth's side. Back on the Resolute, Jude watched as enemy ships reacted. Some attempted to form defensive formations, but their moves were hesitant, uncoordinated. Others began retreating, disappearing into the depths of space as they calculated the risks of continuing the fight. Fear was spreading, and Jude could feel it in the silence on the bridge. Even seasoned soldiers and officers paused, sensing the shift. The ultimatum was more than words, it was a declaration. Humans were no longer the species that tolerated attack, ignored provocations, or relied solely on diplomacy. Humans were now a force that could destroy, outthink, and outmaneuver anyone who tried to corner them. The massacre had ignited a determination that could not be extinguished, and the galaxy was about to learn the price of underestimating humanity one last time. Jude's eyes followed a small cluster of alien warships attempting to flee through an unprotected corridor. The ships were fast, but human pilots had anticipated this. Finn and Lara led a squadron that appeared suddenly from the shadows, striking from multiple angles simultaneously. Plasma beams cut across the void, disabling engines and weapons without unnecessary destruction. The aliens' retreat became chaos. Some ships collided as their pilots tried to evade, others drifted powerless as humans struck with precision. In the control room back on Earth, Mara and Ewan watched the live feeds. Mara's face was calm but determined. "They thought this was over," she said softly. "They thought humans would settle for survival. They were wrong." Ewan nodded. "They still don't understand. Humans don't just survive when cornered, we thrive. We adapt. We fight smarter, faster, and harder when the odds are against us. That is why they are fleeing." Across the galaxy, news spread faster than any fleet could travel. Messages and signals passed between colonies, between neutral worlds, and even between enemy fleets. The whispers began: humans are not just survivors, they are a species that thrives when cornered. They are clever, relentless, and impossible to predict. Every corner of the galaxy that once dismissed Earth as insignificant now paused, reconsidered, and feared the consequences of further aggression. Scout Clive monitored the galaxy from his observation pod, relaying intelligence back to Earth. "Every fleet that sees our forces retreats," he reported. "They've underestimated us every step of the way. Now they finally see what we're capable of. Ivy's AI systems ran simulations simultaneously, calculating human movements, predicting alien responses and suggesting optimal strategies. The AI had learned, adapted, and now guided human forces with incredible precision. Ivy smiled, realizing that technology combined with human creativity and courage had become unstoppable. They can't anticipate us, she said. They can't predict what we will do next. That is our greatest strength. In orbit above a liberated colony, soldiers prepared for boarding missions. They moved with efficiency, ensuring that no resources were wasted and no civilians harmed unnecessarily. Humanity's retaliation and enforcement of the ultimatum were calculated, precise, and intelligent. Every action was a lesson to the galaxy. Attack humans and you will face consequences beyond imagination. Jude observed the alien ships as they scattered further into the void. They really don't want to fight, he said quietly. His hands rested on the railing, watching the enemy's hesitation. It was a rare feeling for him, seeing opponents not just defeated but genuinely afraid. Rowan's voice came over the comms again. Keep pursuit limited. We want no unnecessary bloodshed. Let this be a warning, not a massacre. Let them understand that humans are not to be taken lightly. Jude nodded. Understood, Admiral. As the ultimatum took hold, colonies and independent species across the galaxy began sending requests for alliances. Messages poured in, offers of technology, soldiers, and resources. Species that had once considered humans insignificant now recognized that Earth had become the center of a growing coalition of intelligence, creativity, and military power. On Earth, Mara addressed the Council. The galaxy is listening. Every action we take reinforces our message. Humanity does not surrender, does not yield, and does not accept weakness. We will continue to strengthen ourselves, build alliances, and ensure that no one ever doubts our resolve again. Ewan added, the massacre taught us humility. The retaliation taught the galaxy fear. Now the reckoning teaches respect. Humans have awakened, and we are no longer a species that can be dismissed. Scout Clive transmitted images of fleeing alien ships. Their formations were broken, their engines damaged, and their morale shattered. Every fleet that attempted to resist was met with coordinated strikes from human forces, guided by AI predictions and pilot ingenuity. Human tactics were now a combination of intelligence, adaptability, and instinct, making them impossible to counter. In the laboratories, Ivy worked on further AI upgrades. Every engagement teaches us something new, she explained to her team. The aliens can adapt slowly, but we evolve faster. Every failure they suffer becomes our knowledge. Every hesitation they show becomes our advantage. This is not just war, it is survival, evolution, and ingenuity in action. Across Earth, civilians contributed to the effort. Engineers repaired damaged orbital stations, programmers coordinated fleet movements, and volunteers distributed supplies. The galaxy saw not just a military force, but a species united in purpose. Humanity's ability to adapt and thrive under pressure became a message louder than any weapon. Jude watched as one last alien fleet attempted a risky maneuver to escape through an asteroid field. The AI predicted their route instantly, and human pilots intercepted with precision. The alien ships, already hesitant and disorganized, could not survive the calculated engagement. Engines exploded, weapon systems failed, and the remnants were forced to surrender or be destroyed. On the bridge, Rowan turned to his crew. History will remember this, he said quietly. Not just as a victory but as a moment when humanity defined itself. They underestimated us at every step and they paid the price. Mara watched the final feeds from the control room. Her fingers hovered over the console as reports poured in from across human space. The galaxy is beginning to respect us, she said. Not because we seek war but because we survive. Because we adapt. Because we fight when cornered. That is our greatest power. Ewan stood beside her, looking at the stars. The massacre tried to break us, he said softly. The retaliation reminded the galaxy that humans are dangerous. Now, the reckoning proves that humans will thrive no matter the odds. The galaxy will never underestimate us again. Soldier Jude, standing quietly on the bridge, felt pride in every human who had fought, created, or contributed to the awakening. The alien fleets had been confronted, challenged, and forced to retreat. Across the stars, whispers spread. Humans were not just survivors, they were a species that thrived when cornered, that adapted, innovated, and overcame. Even as humanity enforced the ultimatum, the galaxy understood the new order. Humans were no longer to be dismissed, underestimated, or attacked. Every colony, every fleet, every independent species now recognized that Earth had become the center of a powerful, intelligent, and adaptive force. Jude turned away from the window, his eyes reflecting determination. "We've shown them who we are," he said. "But this is only the beginning. Humanity will not stop at survival. We will rise, and the galaxy will learn that cornered humans are unstoppable." On Earth, Mara and Ewan watched reports from across human space. Colonies that had once resisted or mocked humans now pledged allegiance, offering technology, ships, and soldiers. Humanity had turned survival into influence, weakness into power, and fear into respect. The galactic reckoning was complete. Humans were no longer just survivors, they were a species reborn, a force of intelligence, adaptability, and courage. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. Across the stars, Jude knew one thing for certain. The massacre had ignited the fire, the retaliation had awakened humanity, and the reckoning had forged a legend that would endure forever. Years had passed since humanity had delivered its ultimatum to the galaxy. The massacre, the first retaliation, the turning tide, and the galactic reckoning were all memories now, but memories that had forged a new species. Humanity had not just survived. It had risen, adapted, and transformed into a force that no civilization could ignore. Earth itself had become a beacon, a symbol of ingenuity, resilience, and unshakable will. Leaders Nell and Gideon stood in the council chamber, overlooking a holographic display of the galaxy. Stars and colonies glowed in patterns that represented alliances, trade routes, and diplomatic influence. Humanity was now fully integrated into galactic councils, but unlike any species before, humans demanded their own rules. They did not bow to others' traditions or expect the galaxy to change for them. Instead, humans shaped the rules around their intelligence, creativity, and strength. Nell's fingers hovered over the display. "We've done more than survive," she said quietly. "We've become architects of the future. Every alliance, every negotiation, every fleet movement reflects not just power, but strategy, foresight, and human ingenuity." Gideon nodded. "And the galaxy has learned that we are not to be underestimated. They remember the day Earth spoke and they know we mean it. Humans will not be predictable and we will not be controlled. That is our legacy." Across Earth, education, science, and exploration thrived. Children learned the lessons of the massacre and the galactic campaigns not as stories of fear, but as lessons of creativity, resilience, and courage. Pilots trained in simulation programs that combined AI predictions and improvisation. Engineers worked on orbital stations and starships capable of defending colonies or exploring uncharted systems. Scientists pushed the boundaries of nanotech, energy, and AI, ensuring humanity remained ahead of every other species. Scout Clive, now a senior observer in Earth Space Command, transmitted updates from distant colonies. "Every world we touch is now safer, stronger, and more cooperative," he reported. But it's more than that. Humanity's example has inspired them. They see what creativity, adaptability, and determination can do. We've changed the galaxy, not with domination but with brilliance. On a ceremonial day marking a decade since the first retaliation, veterans, scientists, engineers, pilots, and citizens gathered on Earth's central square. Holograms of key events, ships maneuvering unpredictably, AI calculations saving entire colonies, strategic strikes that had reshaped fleets, played across the sky. Every face reflected pride, remembering the hardship, the loss, and the victories that had forged the new human identity. Jude, older now but still sharp-eyed, stood among the crowd. He remembered his first sight of fleeing alien warships, the adrenaline of battle, and the moment humanity finally spoke as one. "We didn't just fight to survive," he said to a young pilot beside him. "We fought to define who we are. And now, every species in the galaxy knows, humans are clever, unpredictable, and unstoppable when needed." Nell stepped onto the podium, her voice calm yet commanding. "We have built something extraordinary," she said. "We have endured, adapted, and thrived when others expected our defeat. Humanity now stands not as a servant of the galaxy, but as a partner that shapes its destiny. Every species here knows our strength, and our restraint. We fight when necessary but we also know when to walk away. That is the essence of our power." Gideon joined her, adding, "The galaxy remembers the day Earth spoke. We're done being civilized." That statement was not empty pride. It was a warning and a promise. The most dangerous species is the one that knows both when to walk away, and when to strike with brilliance. That is humanity. In orbit above Earth, ships of all shapes and sizes traveled between colonies, research stations and trade hubs. Human fleets, though no longer solely for war, maintained readiness. Pilots trained continuously, AI systems monitored fleets, and engineers tested new propulsion technologies. Humanity had learned that survival was not just about reaction, but about preparation, adaptability, and foresight. Ivy, now head of the Galactic Science Consortium, worked tirelessly on innovations that would maintain humanity's edge. AI systems could predict potential conflicts, suggest solutions, and coordinate logistics across multiple star systems. Nanotechnology could repair ships mid-flight, enhance living conditions on distant colonies, and even assist other species in need. Ivy smiled at the reports from Scout Clive. "We've turned every lesson from war into opportunity," she said. "Every challenge has made us stronger. Humanity's brilliance is now a tool, a shield, and a bridge for the galaxy." Across multiple colonies, human ambassadors negotiated treaties, shared technology, and assisted in building infrastructure. Species that had once doubted humans now relied on their guidance. But humans never sought dominance. Instead, they inspired respect and caution, showing that strength could coexist with ingenuity, and that brilliance could enforce peace as effectively as force. In a remote training station, Finn and Lara led new pilots through exercises. "Remember," Finn said, "the galaxy will try to predict you. Don't be predictable. Use your instincts, your training, and your creativity. That is what makes us strong. That is why no species can corner humanity." Lara added, "We fight with intelligence, not just power. We strike when needed, but we know when to withdraw. That's what the galaxy respects. That's our legacy." Scout Clive observed a new fleet of human ships embarking on exploratory missions. Some carried scientists, others engineers, and some small contingents of soldiers. Every mission was coordinated to maximize efficiency, innovation, and safety. Every ship was a reminder that humanity had not just survived the massacre, it had thrived. Back on Earth, Mara and Ewan, older now, wiser, and still central to humanity's strategy, oversaw the integration of humans into galactic councils. "The galaxy respects us," Mara said. "But respect is not enough. We must ensure that our systems, our colonies, and our people remain vigilant, creative, and adaptable. That is how we maintain our place and our influence." Ewan nodded. "Every victory, every alliance, every innovation reminds the galaxy that humans are not to be underestimated. They will remember the day we spoke, and they will carry that lesson for generations. We are alive, clever, and unstoppable when the moment requires it." Across the galaxy, species that had once threatened Earth now hesitated before aggression. Some attempted minor provocations, but human fleets, guided by intelligence and precision, responded with calculated deterrence. No unnecessary blood was spilled, but every action reinforced the message: humans fight with brilliance, and brilliance cannot be ignored. On Earth, a memorial stood in the central square, a reminder of the massacre, the lives lost, and the lessons learned. Children placed flowers alongside holograms of fallen pilots, scientists, and soldiers. Parents told stories of courage and creativity, teaching the next generation that humanity's greatest weapon was not just technology, but intelligence, adaptability, and unshakable will. Jude visited the memorial, his hand resting lightly on the smooth stone. "We were forced into a corner," he said quietly. "And yet we became stronger. Not through rage alone, but through thought, strategy, and unity. That is the lesson humanity leaves behind. Never underestimate the species that refuses to be controlled." In the sky above Earth, the stars seemed to shine brighter, reflected in the glow of human innovation. Ships moved through space, exploring, building, protecting, and inspiring. Humanity had learned that survival required not just strength, but creativity, intelligence, and foresight. Every action reinforced their reputation. Humans were brilliant, unpredictable, and unstoppable when pushed to the edge. Scout Clive transmitted his final report of the day. "Every colony, every fleet, every station reports that humanity is not only surviving but thriving. They know our power, our ingenuity, and our caution. The galaxy has learned our lesson. Humans are the species that adapts, strikes with brilliance, and walks away when necessary. That is our legacy." Nell and Gideon watched the reports from the council chamber. "We've done more than rebuild," Nell said. "We've defined a species that no civilization can ignore. We've shown the galaxy that humanity's brilliance is not just a weapon, but a philosophy, a way of life, and a standard for survival." Gideon added, "The galaxy remembers the day Earth spoke. We're done being civilized." That statement was not anger, not threat, but clarity. Humans will never be predictable, never submissive, and never weak again. Every species knows that now. Our legacy is complete. Across human space, celebrations were muted but widespread. Colonies exchanged messages of unity, research teams collaborated on innovations, and fleets patrolled with calm vigilance. Humanity had forged a presence that was not based on fear alone, but on respect, intelligence, and capability. Finn and Lara concluded a training exercise. "The galaxy is watching," Finn said. "Every move we make reinforces the lesson. Humans fight differently. Humans survive differently. Humans think differently." Lara nodded. "And that is why we endure, why we thrive, and why we are remembered." As night fell on Earth, lights from cities and spaceports shimmered like stars on the surface of the planet. Citizens, soldiers, scientists, and children all shared a sense of pride. Humanity had risen from destruction, defiance, and fear to become a species respected, feared, and admired across the galaxy. Jude looked at the horizon, feeling the weight of history and the promise of the future. "We've spoken," he said quietly. "We've shown the galaxy who we are. And now, every species knows the truth. Humans are dangerous when pushed, brilliant when tested, and unstoppable when united." Nell, Gideon, Mara, and Ewan watched from the council chamber, knowing that humanity's legacy was secured. They had survived the massacre, thrived through retaliation, and forged a future defined by creativity, intelligence, and willpower. The galaxy had learned the ultimate lesson. The most dangerous species is the one that knows both when to walk away and when to strike with brilliance. And so, Earth stood as a symbol of unshakable determination, human ingenuity, and enduring legacy. Humanity had spoken. The galaxy had listened. And every species would remember the day Earth said, "We're done being civilized."